The year is 1966. You're an 18-year-old fresh out of high school, hunkered down in a foxhole in Vietnam with a company of NVA regulars closing in on your position. Before insertion to your patrol base, your platoon was issued brand new M16s and bandoliers of the cheapest available 5.56 ammunition. In the middle of the fight, most of your guys in the platoon aren't returning fire, they're clearing malfunctions from their M16s. Cases are failing to extract and they're stuck in tight, pitted chambers. Your team leader swaps rifles with you and tells you to clear the malfunction with some of your cleaning rods. But your rifle never shipped with a cleaning kit because the rifle was pushed as self-cleaning. And by the time you improvise with your pocket knife to clear the jam, he's got your rifle gummed up with ammunition. The enemy's closing in, your machine gunners are burning through their last belts of ammunition, and the rest of your platoon is desperately fighting their own jammed rifles instead of fighting the enemy because rushed procurement, dirty ball powder ammo, zero issued cleaning kits or training, and the decision to skip chrome line chambers turned this promising new ultralight rifle into a battlefield liability. Now, fast forward to 2026. You might be watching a YouTube video, but the barrel finish is still one of the more important choices you need to make when you're building an AR-15. I'm Josh, and I'll be your host for episode 5 of the AT3 Tactical Barrels Guide. If you've already watched episodes 1 through 4, then you already have a solid understanding of barrel materials, rifling, twist rate, manufacturing processes, barrel lengths, and even barrel profiles. But even though we've covered a lot of ground so far, we're not done quite just yet. Today we're going to tackle the subject of barrel finishes. By the time we're through here today, you're going to have a solid understanding of what finish is right for your build, regardless if you're making a duty gun for work purposes or if you're building a high round count range toy to get yourself to the next level in training. So if you're ready to make sure your barrel never becomes a history lesson, let's get into it. All right, so to start, we have to define what a barrel finish actually is so that everyone is playing from the same level sheet of music. If this is old hat for you, just hang in there with me, guys. We're gonna get to the good stuff in a second. In the AR-15 world, a barrel finish is the specialized protective treatment that's applied to your barrel's steel on both the exterior surface and the interior bore and chamber. Think back to episode 1 of this series where we talked about barrel materials just for a second. The steel has a huge hand in how your barrel is going to perform, but it's not the only part of that manufacturing process that decides how long your barrel is going to make it through heavy use. A barrel manufacturer can take 2 barrels made from the exact same 4150 CMV steel, and those 2 barrels can behave very differently on a micro level once you start shooting, and that's because of the finish. Check it out. The barrel finish is a functional performance treatment. Its job is to help the barrel fight corrosion, reduce wear and friction from repeated shooting, and make it easier to clean and maintain, and to extend the life of the barrel over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds. There's 3 main categories that you have to think about when it comes to your barrel finish. First, you've got the exterior protection. This is what you're gonna see on the outside of the barrel when it's not hiding underneath of your old A2 handguard. What you'll commonly see here is something like parkerizing, which is what gives your barrel that classic gray look, like this one that I'm holding right here. A really easy way to know if this is what you have on your barrel is looking for surface rust after your rifle has been sitting in a humid environment for a long period of time, or if you're seeing, like on this barrel, oil seeping out of the pores in the metal. Seriously, clean your gun, Greg. Jeez, like, it's not hard. On the flip side of that, you've got your interior lining or the bore lining. This is what's happening on the inside of your barrel and chamber where all the friction takes place from when you're shooting. And it's also what caused all the drama for our guys in Vietnam, since Uncle Sam decided that saving $1 on chrome lining was a good idea. Last, you've got what's called full barrel case hardening, which is a modern all-in-one approach to finishing a barrel, and it's what's most commonly known as a nitride finish. You might also see it listed as a melanite finish or a QPQ finish on some manufacturers' fancy specification sheet, but it's just full barrel case hardening, where the whole thing goes through a high temperature salt bath to infuse the barrel with nitride all in one go. For the manufacturer, applying these to the barrel is a super straightforward process no matter what they're doing. We're gonna get into that just a little bit later, but we have to talk about what finishes are currently out there that you might run into when you're making your barrel decision first. That is really what the bread and butter of this is all about. Manganese phosphate, manganese I don't know how to say this word, so bear with me. Manganese phosphate is first on deck. It sounds pretty fancy, right? But it's really just another way of saying Parkerized, which is the exterior only coating that you see on your common mil-spec style barrels like this Geisele one right here. Here's how Parkerization works. The process creates a porous surface that soaks up and holds oil. So think of it like a sponge, kinda. The oil that's soaked into these pores protects the exterior of the barrel from rust. The quick way to spot this on a spec sheet is to look for terms like phosphate, Parkerized, or manganese phosphate listed under the finish section of the barrel. If it says Chrome Line 2, then that's when you know you've got that proven finish that's been used on all the dot mill barrels for a super long time. What's good about this is that it's usually combined with the Chrome Line, which we're gonna talk about in a minute, which is gonna give you the more heavy duty barrel rated for full auto fire or just super, super heavy use. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, with a Parkerized barrel, you've got to stay on top of your maintenance schedules, especially for you guys that are living in super humid environments like Florida or Hawaii or Washington, where, you know, the place where you measure the outside temperature by the amount of water in the air outside. You can usually like feel it between your fingers, you know? If you're not staying on top of oiling a Parkerized barrel, the rust on the exterior is gonna let you know about it. It should look more like this barrel where you can literally see the oil leaking out of the pores in the metal. Now, I just briefly mentioned Chrome Line, but I gotta talk about that next because it's one of the three. It's usually what's gonna be combined with the Parkerization on the interior of the barrel. But here's how it actually works in real life. Manufacturers electroplate a thin, super hard layer of chromium right into the inside of the bore and chamber, adding material to the interior of the barrel itself. It creates an extremely smooth and tough surface that resists heat, fouling, and corrosion from the inside out. Now, when you add that 1,000th of an inch of chromium to the interior of the barrel, some guys say that you're giving up a little bit of accuracy compared to a raw stainless interior like this Faxon barrel or a nitride finish like this one right here, because that plating isn't always perfectly uniform along the whole barrel. But fortunately for us, we live in the year 2026 and modern manufacturing has alleviated that accuracy loss for just about everyone except for the guys who are really trying to min-max the accuracy of their rifle. That said, a Chrome Line barrel is built to be Marine infantry proof. That means you're maximizing your ability to shoot high round counts very fast using all kinds of cheap ammo because the chrome lining was built for punishment. They're also super easy to clean on the interior because the chromium makes it difficult for fouling to stick to the interior of the barrel. Now, if you're not sure what your barrel's lined with, the fastest way to check for a chrome lining is to shine a light right down the barrel. If the bore lights up super bright and shiny with a visible ring at the crown, you're most likely looking at a chrome lined barrel. It's actually not that hard at all to tell it all. For full barrel case hardening treatment, we're talking about nitride. Now, you might also hear this called something like a melanite or a QPQ salt bath nitriding as well, and I think I might have previously mentioned that. But nitride barrels have really become something of a common standard over the past decade to 15 years or so because of how much faster and easier it is for the manufacturers to apply this finish to the complete barrel. Now, unlike our Parkerization and chrome lining, nitride treats the whole barrel all at once, inside, outside, literally everything in between too. The manufacturer takes the barrel, puts it into a high temperature salt bath, and then infuses it with nitrogen right into the surface of the steel. This process then further hardens the steel, making it a super hard, low friction skin instead of adding an additional layer of material like with your chrome lining. So just remember, chrome lining is adding material, nitride is just kind of putting a skin over the material and infusing it with nitride. So if you go back to episode 1 of this series, you can see how a nitride finish might actually improve the overall metallurgy of the barrel that you're working with, especially when we're talking about barrels that don't have extra vanadium added into them, or when we're working with something that has a lower carbon content, like our 4140. Remember, the 40 is a lower carbon percentage than the 4150, whereas the 50 is 0.50%. As the entire barrel is treated, you end up with insanely good corrosion resistance on both the inside and the outside of the barrel, and the surface becomes more slippery, which means less friction, less fouling buildup, and a significantly easier to clean barrel. This is really your all-around performance finish that holds your accuracy super well and resists wear nicely too. Bonus points for nitride because while it might not hold up to heat and sustain fire quite as well as your chrome lined barrel, you don't have to baby Parkerization with constant oil treatments on the nitrided barrels, and they're usually all coming in at around the same price, if not just a little bit cheaper than the mil spec versions made from the same exact steel. And that's because the nitride finish is a simple single step process for the manufacturer. Now, these last couple that I'm going to talk about are kind of exceptions and not the rule when it comes to a barrel finish in the AR-15 space. Now, I'm talking about your raw 416R stainless steel barrels, or your diamond-like carbon or titanium nitrides, or even in some cases Cerakote. Generally speaking, if you're using a barrel with one of these, it's because you've got a very specific use case in mind for your AR-15, and you need something that's pretty custom fit. But that doesn't mean we're not going to talk about them and just ignore them and not let you guys know that they exist. Now with the 416R stainless steel, for example, you've got a super high chromium content baked right into the metal of the barrel blank. That makes the barrel itself more naturally corrosion resistant, and just like we talked about in episode 1, it makes it super easy to consistently machine with from a manufacturer standpoint, giving you the best raw accuracy potential straight out of the box. That's why with 416R, you're generally seeing it on your precision builds or your varmint rifles, where the first shot has to hit exactly where you want it to every single time. Now, with your other specialized finishes like DLC or TIN or even Cerakote, you're in more of a hybrid world. These aren't really meant to replace a base finish on the barrel, but they're there to help add extra protection to the barrel itself. And in the case of DLC and TIN, they're there to help reduce friction just a little bit more and improve the barrel. Still with me, guys? I know Caleb from Brownells got through all of this subject 6 years ago in just 2 minutes. And here I am over-explaining it all. I hear you, I really do. But let me tell you what all of this actually means with a real quick decision guide. If you're building a duty or a defensive rifle, you can really go with either chrome line or nitride on your barrel. It just depends on how you are as an individual. If you're like everyone's buddy Greg and you hate cleaning your rifle and always run the cheapest possible ammo you can find, I'd suggest snagging up a nitride barrel for that build. If you're more like me and you clean guns for fun while you're watching a podcast and you only run top shelf ammo because you're a snub, chrome lined is probably the way to go. Say you want to do something like build a 1,000-yard AR platform rifle though, like our buddy Charlie is over on the Stinger YouTube channel. 416R stainless steel is going to be the automatic winner. Pair it with a heavy profile barrel like this heavy thing and a 1.7 or a 1.8 twist rate, depending on the size of the round you're sending through it, and you're gonna be knocking down some super tight groups. Now, if you wanna hear more about that build that Charlie's working on, by the way, you can do a quick search for the AT3 Armory channel up in the search bar up here, and you'll find our podcast where Charlie broke down the full 1,000-yard AR-15 that he's working on. Okay, what if you're building a high volume range toy, something that you plan to just dump magazines through just to have fun? You're gonna want a barrel that laughs at sustained fire, right? Now this is where your chrome line barrel is gonna come into play, especially if you're planning to run it super hot and shoot it super fast. They're built to be almost punishment proof, and the chromium layer is extremely smooth, tough, and resists heat and fouling, just like I've said earlier. You get a maximum lifespan when you're shooting high round counts very fast when you're using that chromium on the inside of your barrel. If you can't find a chrome line barrel in the profile or at the price point you want, nitride is gonna be your next best choice because it also offers low friction and better wear resistance than just bare steel might. Now let's talk about the two most common advanced use cases. We're probably talking about suppressors and super harsh environments. Running a suppressor dumps all that corrosive hot gas back into the barrel in action, so you need the best corrosion resistance that you can possibly get, and that's an easy win for nitride. Since the entire barrel is case hardened, it gives you good corrosion resistance. Now, if you live on the coast or somewhere like Florida or the Eastern Carolinas where the humidity is a constant problem, nitride is also going to be the winner to prevent that exterior surface rust you get with untreated Parkerized barrels. All right, so real fast, rapid fire. Which combinations actually work together in the real world, and what do I recommend? I've seen you guys asking down in the comments for my suggestions, so I'm gonna give them to you right now. Remember, this is just like my opinion, man. For duty and defense use, guys, I want you to go with a 4150 CMB steel with a mid-length gas system, a government or a SOCOM profile, and then a chrome line bore with a phosphate exterior or just a straight nitride finish if that's what's in your budget. For precision, you need to go with the 416R stainless steel with a rifle length gas system and a heavy or a hybrid profile. And often you don't need an interior finish at all because of that high chromium steel content. Or sometimes you might want to go with a specialty enhancement like a polish bore or a DLC exterior. Just really depends on what your budget is. For general purpose range use or for my budget bubbas, I want you to go with a 4140 or a 4150 steel, skip the vanadium. Go with whatever profile is in your budget while you're on the hunt for your barrel, and honestly go with a nitride finish to save some cash and to keep everything nice and simple. So that decision guide should have given you the quick answer on how finishes impact real world performance, but let's get just a little bit deeper. Hang in with me. Knowing what finish to pick is really only half of the battle, and I want you guys to really truly understand why your barrel might be performing that way that it is based on the finish. So let's talk about corrosion and environmental resistances just for a second. The enemy here is always going to be moisture and salt. The worst performer is your standard manganese phosphate, which needs external oil treatments constantly to prevent rust. The best performers are nitride and then your interior chrome lining. Nitride is arguably better because the treatment chemically changes the entire surface of the steel, giving you better resistance on both the interior and the exterior at the same time. Now the chrome lining is great, but only for your bore in your chamber. It leaves the exterior dependent on that phosphate coating, and that is going to be an issue for you, especially if you live in a perpetually wet or salty environment. You know, somewhere like Hawaii where you can literally feel the air between your fingers when you rub them together. Nitride's gonna be your undisputed champion for this specific one. Now, when it comes to wear or friction and barrel longevity, both the chrome lining and the nitride were designed to extend the barrel's life. The chrome lining adds a thin layer of super hard material to the bore, which is great for resisting throat erosion and wear from repeated heavy use. Nitride, on the other hand, infuses nitrogen into the surfaces of the steel, creating a hardened skin that reduces friction, which leads to less fouling and less abrasive wear as the bullet travels down the bore. Both are absolutely phenomenal, but to maximize resistance against throat erosion from extreme sustained heat, chrome is going to be your benchmark. Now, when it comes to accuracy, harmonics, consistency, my stainless steel guys are fist pumping right now. Raw 416R was literally designed specifically for this. The R stands for rifle barrel quality, guys. It gives you the best raw accuracy potential because it can be machined super consistently, and there's no added material layers at all like chrome that could potentially be non-uniform inside of the barrel. Now, finally, let's talk about the cost versus performance trade-offs. Because barrel manufacturers have streamlined the process, a nitride barrel can often be had for the same price or even slightly cheaper than its mil-spec chrome line counterpart made from the exact same steel. Nitride is a single-step process. Like I said earlier, that means overall it's less work to complete the barrel, which means less time to complete the manufacturing process, which generally translates to a lower price on the barrel for the manufacturer, and that gets passed on to you as a consumer. Chrome lining, on the other hand, is a two-step process. Phosphate exterior plus the electroplating interior. So today, nitride often offers the best performance per dollar ratio, but chrome line is still easily found and a great long-term durability choice, but it really boils down to what kind of metal was used when the barrel was being manufactured. Just like with everything else in this series, guys, there isn't a best barrel finish. Try to think of it like picking tires for your truck. You can probably throw a good set of all-terrain tires on and be fine no matter what you're doing. But if you know all you're doing is ripping up the woods in backcountry, or you live somewhere where it snows 6 months out of the year, you're probably gonna tailor your tires specifically to match what you're doing with your vehicle. Same thing with your barrel finish. Now, if you've been with us since the start of episode 1 of this series, congratulations. You probably know more about barrels than just about 95% of people you're out in the range with. At the very least, you definitely know more than CJ, who hasn't been paying attention the whole time he's been sitting behind the camera.
Hey!
Now, if you're just joining us, you can find the whole playlist starting with episode 1 where we talk about barrel materials right here. We'll see you guys over in episode 6 where we're gonna break down the anatomy of a barrel. Manganese.
Manganese.
That's how you've been saying it. So, you're right. Manganese. Sounds like Chinese.
Chrome lining, however, is a 2-step prostate. Prostate? Phosphate? Prostate?